Are you trying to maximize your military benefits while going to school and using tuition assistance or FAFSA? If so, think no more. We got you here. Hey everybody, I'm Darius from YRE, and today we're going to talk about tuition assistance and FAFSA. What is tuition assistance and FAFSA? Tuition assistance is TA that we get in the military, typically if you're active duty, and we get allotted $4,500 to use per fiscal year. After that fiscal year, it replenishes itself. So whatever you don't use, it does not transfer over, so it's recommended that you use as much as possible. Now what happens when you run out of tuition assistance is you can actually use FAFSA, and FAFSA is financial aid from the federal government, and if you're approved, you can use that financial aid to continue going to school when your tuition assistance runs out. Now, how do you apply for FAFSA? You have to go to student.ed.gov and you have to fill out the paperwork there. They'll direct you over to FAFSA.gov, and there is when you're going to start filling out the actual financial aid form for the government. It's good to have your taxes and W-2s handy because they're going to be asking for information from it. So if you already got that handy, you won't be digging around. Now, if you are going to apply for FAFSA, it's good that you already know what school you're going to go to or schools you plan to go to, because you're going to need a school code that we're going to talk about here in a second. Once you fill out the financial aid form, in there you'll be inserting the school codes, and what that does is that pretty much lets the government know, like, hey, this person's trying to use financial aid with these universities. The federal government is going to communicate with those universities and let them know, like, hey, this individual here is trying to use financial aid, and you're good to go. They'll tell you within 2 to 5 days if you're approved after you get done putting in all the information into the FAFSA form. It will give you a SAR. A SAR is your student aid report, and on there you'll have an EFC. Your EFC is an estimated financial contribution, and what this does is it tell you how much money you're going to get for financial aid when it comes to the Pell Grant. Pell Grant is free money, meaning you don't have to give it back. Depending on your rank, and BAH and other factors, depending on how much you make, the less you make, the more you're more than likely gonna get, whereas someone who's making more, they may get less or they may not be approved for FAFSA at all, because it's all about how much you make and whether the federal government sees you as a candidate who actually needs the funds. Once you get done having your SAR, your student aid report, what you need to do is you need to go to your university, right? And say, hey, get in contact with your financial aid office, and you let them know, like, hey, I plan to use financial aid. Financial aid, typically the term for it is from July of that year to June of the next year. That is the timeline. So ensure that you get it done as quickly as possible, so it goes throughout the year. But you're gonna tell your school, I wanna use financial aid. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna have you fill out a financial award letter. And what that's going to do is they're gonna send it to you, and it's gonna have on there what you're eligible for, which might be loans, your Pell Grant, tuition assistance. And one thing that you don't wanna do is agree to actually taking loans, accepting loans, because you gotta pay loans back, and we don't want that to happen to you. The only thing that you want to select is getting a Pell Grant that you don't have to pay back, and your tuition assistance. Now, depending upon how many classes you plan to take during that school year, from that July to that June timeframe of the following year, that's gonna let the university to decide how much money they wanna give you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there might be a difference here. The federal government might say, hey, we're gonna give you $5,700. And when they send it over to the university and you apply with your university saying, hey, university, I want to use financial aid, I plan to take X amount of classes, right? The university might say, okay, cool, we'll only give you $5,000 instead of $5,700. Whereas someone who maybe says, like, hey, I'm only taking 2 classes, the school might say, hey, we're only going to give you maybe $2,000. Now, in order for FAFSA to work, you have to go to school full-time. What full-time is seen as 2 classes online at a minimum in order for you to receive FAFSA. Now, once the school says you're approved and you have your award letter signed, they'll let you know how much money the university is going to give you. At that point in time, you have financial aid. You've been approved on the government side, on your university side, you're just waiting to use it. So typically people do 2 things here. you utilize all their tuition assistance and now they dip into their FAFSA funds. Let's say they've been allotted $5,000. They use that $5,000 for the remaining fiscal year. Or you have people who just want to pocket the FAFSA money, seeing it as maybe you're paying yourself or you just want to save some money, right? Pay some bills. What you have to do is you do the same process. You ensure that all your stuff on the military side is good to go as far as the briefings, tuition assistance, AFEC has been up to date, your supervisor's tracking. And then you do the same process for the FAFSA, ensuring you're good for the whole year with your university, letting them know. Now what you have to do is on your university, you're gonna apply for 2 classes at a minimum. When you apply for that class, you're gonna tell the university that you plan to use that FAFSA. And let's say out of that $5,000, they're gonna give you $1,500 because that's what this classes cost, right? $1,500 for 2 classes. So they pretty much take that FAFSA money and that $1,500 and they take it outside of a jar, right? So now you have the money sitting here. On the other hand, when you go to AFEC, if you will, if you're in the Air Force, you're gonna get on the portal, you're gonna tell AFEC like, hey, I'm applying for 2 classes. They're gonna ask you what type of payment are you gonna utilize. You're gonna say tuition assistance. It's gonna go to your supervisor, go to the education office. This money here, the $1,500 FAFSA dollars, is still outside of the jar, it's just sitting on the table. And as soon as the education office says you're good to go and it's approved, that money, that TA will instantly pay for that class. The class has been paid for. However, you still have $1,500 that's sitting out on the table. As you're attending the classes maybe 2 to 5 weeks in, the university's gonna be like, hey, we got this money laying around on this counter. This is your money. What do you want to do with it? And at that time, they'll either send it to you in a check, or if you filled out the authorization form earlier when you were applying with the university, they'll just take that $1,500 and instantly submit it into your account. Now my question for you is, do you think this is a good tool to maybe utilize to help get your troops or your supervisors into school to further their education? I know a lot of people disregard going to school while they're in the military and maybe regret it when they get out. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you want more of this content, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys later.